Oh boy, we found a doozy of a channel called Luxander. Luxander, whatever. Who cares? A non-binary YouTuber who comments a lot on trans stuff. Apparently, they identify as its, or they, them. As weird as I think that is, I will try and respect that. I know some of you might disagree with that, but I'm trying not to disrespect people for no reason. If you want to be called a dinosaur, as long as I'm not forced to, I don't mind doing it. I don't think you are one. It might be kind of weird, but if it makes you happy, I don't really care. Just to show you how radical this person is, before I get into the meat of what I want to talk about, I'll play this clip.
The idea that women are inherently worse at sports and the fact that these women have totally bought into that, it just means that they've completely bought into the idea of male supremacy, even though, again, statistically, if you provide the same quality of coaches and equipment and training, there's barely any difference.
Wow. It's not at all uncommon for lefties to deny reality, but this is still exceptional. The only reason that men are better at a lot of sports than women is just because they didn't get good coaches. Just ignore evolution and biology as you know it and accept these statistics that she's obviously not going to cite. Do those statistics explain why in most primates males are bigger and stronger than females? No? Is it just because female gorillas aren't hitting the gym enough? Their equipment isn't that good? Okay. Actually, that's a verboten opinion. Evolutionary biologist Colin Wright got censored by Instagram for saying just that. Evolutionary biologist? That just sounds like a fancy word for transphobe. Next, I want to talk about this video, entitled New Requirements Make Transition Easier for Kids. How could that possibly be a bad thing?
So the WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, is a nonprofit organization that basically sets the parameters and the rules for how you should handle trans health.
They recorded this before the WPATH leak. Uh-oh. The WPATH files, as it's often referred to, was a series of leaked internal communications from people associated with WPATH. The leaks put on full display that while they like to put on a front that this is settled science and there's no room for debate, that internally, behind the scenes, there's doubt.
To say, it's always a good theory that you talk about fertility preservation with a 14-year-old, but I know I'm talking to a blank wall.
Look at these clowns laughing and smiling. A child can't give consent because they don't know what's going on. Isn't that hilarious? Oh, sorry, gotta drop the meeting. I actually have an appointment to chop up a kid later.
So I think, it doesn't surprise me, but I don't know still what to do for the 14-year-olds. The parents have it on their minds, but the 14-year-olds, it's like talking with diabetic complications with a 14-year-old. They don't care. They're not going to die. They're going to live forever, right? So I think when we're doing informed consent, I know that that's still a big lacuna of that we do it, we try to talk about it, but most of the kids are nowhere in any kind of a brain space to really, really, really talk about it in a serious way.
I honestly don't see how this is funny. We're taking young children who don't even understand the ramifications of what's happening to them. Young, vulnerable, disproportionately autistic children, putting them through these treatments that often lack sufficient evidence and then laughing about it.
Explicit allowance of informed consent. Okay, so maybe explicit allowance wasn't there before.
Explicit allowance is added, but behind the scenes, they realize that kids don't really understand what they're consenting to.
No watchful waiting, which is conversion therapy. It's noteworthy that the WPATH is specifically saying watchful waiting is not recommended. You should not do that. Watchful waiting is basically this idea that if you just let the kid be dysphoric for their entire teenage years, then by the time they're an adult, they will just stop being trans. Like, it's just like hoping that they will stop feeling shit.
And why is that not the recommended approach, when the likelihood is that the children will resolve their gender dysphoria and come to terms with their sex? And most transgender children turn out to be gay. But that too is just a laughing matter. As was written in the book Time to Think, There was a dark joke in the Gids clinic where they were transitioning young children that there would be no gay people left at the rate Gids was going. Hilarious if it wasn't so evil.
Previous guidelines regarding gender-affirming treatment of adolescents recommended partially reversible gender-affirming hormone therapy could be initiated at 16 years of age, but more recent guidelines suggest there may be compelling reason to initiate affirming hormones prior to the age of 16, though there are limited studies on youth who have initiated hormones prior to 14.
But when has limited studies ever gotten in the way of the trans activists? Why not lower it to 10? Do all that research science mumbo jumbo later. Who cares?
If Mermaids is not a medical organization as heard in court this week from its chair, why is CEO Susie Green a co-author on latest international standards of care for trans health? She could serve on two different... Is she doing that co-authoring in her capacity as CEO of Mermaids, or does she just have like multiple things going on in her life?
She's just got like other hobbies, you guys. The obvious question raised by this person is, why is an activist contributing to what is medical guidelines? Why is someone who was an IT manager up until their job at Mermaids serving on a medical board? Why is someone with no experience in medicine contributing to guidelines that will actually be used to treat patients? Some staff at the Gids clinic report that they felt pressured to put forward children for puberty blockers, and some of that pressure was being applied directly from Susie Green, that same one who's contributing to these guidelines. She's clearly biased and shouldn't be there since she has no medical background. But that's a common motif throughout the trans movement. Biology doesn't matter, science doesn't matter, research doesn't matter. We'll worry about those finer details after we've changed these young children's lives forever.